Hello and welcome to our webinar, Life After LSVT Treatments, Strategies for Maintaining Improved Movement and Communication. And we welcome you wherever you may be joining us from. My name is Beth Peterson. I'm a speech language pathologist and one of the LSVT LOUD faculty instructors. I'm joined by my colleague Jenny Tacito, and she's a physical therapist and one of the LSVT BIG faculty instructors. There's more information about our biographies and our backgrounds here in the slideshow, which is a part of the handout. So if you're interested in learning more about us, feel free to read that sometime during or after the webinar. And in terms of disclosures, all faculty have both financial and non-financial relationships with LSVT Global. Those non-financial relationships include a preference for LSVT LOUD and LSVT BIG as treatment techniques. And as for financial relationships, both myself and Jenny were employees of LSVT Global and we receive lecture honorarium from LSVT Global. I'm going to cover a handful of webinar logistics here so you know what to expect for the webinar. Right now, everyone in the audience, as you came in, your microphone is automatically muted just to make sure that we don't have background noise from the various environments where you're joining us. But if you do have a question during the webinar or at the end when we do a Q&A session, there's a few ways to ask your questions. The first would be to type your question in the question pane of your webinar control panel. And then Jenny or I will see that question, we'll read it out loud, and then we'll answer it to the group. You can also raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon on your webinar control panel. Then we'll see that you have a hand raised and we'll call out your first and last name to let you know that we're unmuting your microphone. And then you can ask your question out loud and then we'll answer it that way to the group as well. If we don't get to your question during the broadcast, like while we're presenting on a section, we'll take that question at the end of the webinar when we have some time for Q&A. And the third way to ask a question is really anytime, and that's just to email us. We'll put up this address at the end of the presentation, but it's info as an information, so info@lsvtglobal.com. And for handouts, there's a handout for this webinar, which is just the slides in a handout format, so it's a PDF format. They were emailed to you about 1 hour before the webinar. It comes through on an automated email, kind of a reminder from GoToWebinar. And so there's a handout link embedded in that email. And then also in your webinar control panel, there's a handouts tab. And if you click on that, there's also a link where you can access the handout. If you have any trouble getting the handout either of those ways, feel free to email us and then we can email you a PDF as an attachment. No problem. Then we also have a survey for this webinar. If you're watching us live, the survey will pop up as soon as you exit the webinar at the end. And so we do appreciate if you can take that. It really helps us tailor these webinars to make sure that they're content that our audience members want to hear about. They help us improve, our webinar techniques. They make sure that we're adding webinars to our schedule that you want to hear. So definitely take that survey. It should take 5 minutes or less. If you're watching us on demand, that survey link will be found underneath the webinar description, either in our website or underneath this YouTube video. And that survey is required if you'd like a certificate if you're viewing on demand. And I'll talk about that on the next slide here when I talk about continuing education units. So this webinar is not ASHA or state registered for CEUs for either speech, physical, or occupational therapy, but it may be used for self-reported CEU credit, so you can receive a certificate for your participation. So if you're viewing live, you'll just need to email us, so webinars@lsvtglobal.com, let us know you want a certificate, and then we can send you a certificate. It usually takes, it's within 2 weeks that we'll send you that certificate. If you're watching on demand, that's when you'll need to complete the survey because it lets us know that you want a certificate and it shows us that you viewed the webinar. So again, that survey link can be found in the webinars section right under the webinar description of this individual webinar. There's a survey link there, and then also in the YouTube page where this webinar is uploaded. And again, feel free to email us if you have trouble finding that survey link. As you're probably aware, licensing requirements do differ by state, so just check with your speech, physical, or occupational therapy licensing board to see if your state accepts non-ASHA registered or non-pre-approved CEU activities. and then attendance for the full hour is required to earn a certificate. We have some learning objectives listed here. The first is that by the end of the session, we hope that attendees are able to outline elements of the LSVT treatment and homework sessions for both LSVT LOUD and LSVT BIG, list some potential tools to assist in home practice, both during the month of treatment and then after treatment has concluded, identify the process for enrolling in LOUD for Life or BIG for Life group classes once treatment's concluded, and then recognize the need for periodic check-ins and tune-up sessions after the month of treatment. And before we really jump into the content, we did want to get an idea of who's joining us. So I'm going to launch a poll. And if you can just let us know if you're a person with Parkinson's or a family member, friend, or caregiver, allied health professional or student, or somebody else, we would love to see who we have here. So let me get this poll launched, and then I'll just give you a few moments to click on your response here. So I see them coming through right now. A little mix of everything. It looks like mainly people with Parkinson's and other allied health professionals here. And then a little bit of family members, friends, caregivers, and others. So a little bit of everybody. And let me close that and just share it so that everyone can see. So again, majority of people joining us are people with Parkinson's, and then we have some of the other categories here as well. So thanks everyone for joining us. It's just good for us to know who we're talking to when we're presenting this information. And let me close that up. All right. And so for that group of you who do have Parkinson's, if you can let us know if you had LSVT LOUD or LSVT BIG or both or neither, that can also be helpful to us as we're presenting here today. So that should be launched now. So if you can go ahead and click that selection there. I see those responses coming through. All right. So again, every category so far, with a lot of you receiving both, which we love to hear as someone on the LSVT LOUD side and Jenny on the LSVT BIG side. So that's great to see. So let me go ahead and close that and we'll just show those results. All right, so we've got some who have had both, some who have had neither, and then people who have had one or the other. So a good mix here. So we love to see it. So thanks for taking the time to do that. And I think that should be off the screen now. So I'll go ahead and move forward. And so what I'm going to start with is just a very brief overview of the protocols, just to get us all up to speed on what they look like. And then we'll really get into the heart of the webinar, which is the maintenance. So what does it look like after treatment? How do we make these great loud voices and nice big movements last over time? So LSVT LOUD and LSVT BIG in a nutshell are intensive amplitude-based exercise therapy programs for both the speech and limb motor systems. In addition to targeting those motor systems, so both the voice and then the body movements, we also re-educate the sensory motor system. And that's really a unique aspect of these treatment protocols, is that we're training our clients to kind of recalibrate, to learn the amount of effort and loudness or effort and bigness that it takes to get to within normal limits loudness and within normal limits movements. So to our clients, it feels loud and it feels big, but we're getting you to healthy, normal loudness and healthy, normal movements. So those are some of the key components there. And then we'll talk about some of the fundamental treatment principles. The first is that they're both hypothesis-based and Parkinson's specific. So we're targeting common characteristics in Parkinson's, that hypokinesia, bradykinesia, so that smallness of movement, slowness of movement, which can affect both the voice and the body. So we're seeing that lower volume as a common symptom in Parkinson's, which is why we focus on loudness. And again, those smaller or slower movements, which is why we focus on making those movements bigger in LSVT BIG. They're neuroplasticity based. So even though we're training these movements and the louder voice, and we're seeing those behavioral changes, we're actually, research is showing us, making changes at the level of the brain as well. So there's been a few studies published for LSVT LOUD, showing that after treatment, and even the latest one was even 6 months after that, after treatment concluded, we're also seeing different changes in activation at the level, the neural level, at the level of the brain. So it's really exciting to see that these behavioral changes that we're making are also reorganizing different areas of the brain. They're research-based, so there's a wealth of research on these protocols, not only just for Parkinson's, but for other neurological conditions as well. And they're personalized, so the treatment programs are both individualized, so you'll be seen one-on-one with a speech therapist or physical or occupational therapist. And so we can really make these exercises targeted and salient and personalized to each client that we're working with. And really the heart of the webinar, what we want to talk about today, is our overarching goal for the people that we're treating. We want our clients to be using these bigger movements and the louder voice that we train in therapy automatically once we finish treatment, so that they're using this in their everyday living all the time, and that there's long-term carryover. So not only do we just get it, right in our treatment room and right when treatment ends, but the goal is that these changes last over time. So to have those louder voices, those bigger movements, and they become just a part of daily living. That's really the goal, that you do them outside of treatment, and again, that they last over time. And so I'm going to introduce to you a lifelong model of care. And we kind of joke that once you start seeing one of us, then you're stuck with us for life now. And we love it, and we hope that you do too. But we're a part of your journey. Once you connect with a therapist, that therapist should be with you on your journey with Parkinson's to keep up those louder voices and bigger movements. So the therapy itself is a minimum of 16 visits. So it's 4 consecutive days a week for 4 weeks. They're 1-hour sessions, and again, one-on-one with either LSVT LOUD or LSVT BIG certified therapist. And then on top of that, there's also daily home practice. So home practice is really kind of a mini treatment program that you do at home. So you have an hour with your clinician to do the exercises, and they'll give you home practice that should take you about 10 to 15 minutes on your own, where you'll go through the same exercises out at home outside of treatment. And those practice sessions are not just on those 16 days of treatment, but also the whole month of treatment. So if, for example, if you saw a clinician Monday through Thursday, that clinician is also going to give you homework for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you'll have homework all 30 days of the month of treatment. In addition, then we want you to continue doing treatment after, or not treatment, sorry, homework after treatment has concluded for the rest of your life. If you think of someone who's very good at their sport, or someone who's trained for a marathon, if they did their marathon and then they never ran again, you can't expect them to be at, marathon competing level if they don't keep up with it. So just like we get you to this optimal voice and optimal movement, if you're not keeping up with it, there's no way that it's going to be maintained. So that's why we want to get you in a good habit of self-practice from right when we start treatment, and make sure that we have you in a good routine after treatment has ended. We'll also talk a little bit about group practice today. So once you finish the treatment protocol, there's LOUD for Life and BIG for Life group practice sessions that Jenny and I both have the privilege of leading, and they're very fun for us and also the group members. It's a really nice way to practice the exercises in a social and motivating environment. And Jenny will go into that a little bit more depth later in the presentation today. In addition, we'll also talk about some tune-ups. And so tune-ups would just be, short visits back to your therapist. They'd still be the hour-long sessions, but they're not going to be the full 16 sessions again. Sometimes it's just a matter of checking in. So it might be that a therapist calls the client, they're doing great, they've kept up with their homework, they sound great, their movement is good, and the therapist might just say, okay, I'm going to check in again in another 6 months. But sometimes we do actually bring you back in for some tune-up sessions. And here we've outlined 6 keys to maintaining those treatment gains. The first one is that success starts on day 1. And we talked to our therapists about this as well, that we really want to make sure that our clients are well educated in what the treatment looks like, what the research is behind it, what the commitment is, not only for the treatment sessions, but also for that homework practice. We really educate our clients and families right up front to make sure that everyone's on board and it's a good time to start treatment. Number 2, and this is a big one, adhering to the protocol. So really making sure that the protocol is done as it was done in the research studies so that we can expect the same types of wonderful outcomes that we've seen in the research. So if the treatment is only done, 2 days a week or 30-minute sessions or maybe only 10 sessions, we can't expect the same outcomes that we've seen in the research studies. So if you're a client, it is important that your therapist is doing 4 days a week, 4 weeks in a row, 1-hour sessions, or you're not truly getting LSVT LOUD or LSVT BIG. And then making sure that you're prepared for discharge. And this is another one that we go over with the therapist, just making sure that there's a good plan of care for you. So making sure you know what you should be doing every day, how to get in touch with your therapist, or will your therapist get in touch with you to check in? Are those check-ins scheduled automatically like you might do at the dentist, or do they call to get that scheduled later? So just kind of checking in on the plan, what should happen after treatment ends. And as I mentioned before, that continued practice after discharge is huge. And so that falls on the client and potentially family members or caregivers if we've trained those individuals in your life to really make sure that you are practicing every single day so that you can maintain those great outcomes. And then community engagement. And for us, we really love to see that loud for life or big for life, but there's also other opportunities out there, other types of classes or, just kind of social groups to continue to practice using your louder movements, louder voices or bigger movements in a group in very social setting. And then number 6, those tune-up sessions where you might actually come back and work with the therapist for, I would say it's usually about 2 to 6 sessions to just tune up, get you back into feeling that effort that it takes, getting you back in a good homework routine. You might come back for some tune-up sessions. So I'm going to just briefly cover what the treatment sessions look like for both LSVT LOUD and LSVT BIG. They're both 1-hour protocols, and within each session we have what are called daily exercises. So for LSVT LOUD, we do long, loud ahs. So ah, we would do that for 15 times as long as a client can hold it. Then we do a fundamental frequency range. So going as high and low as we can while maintaining that loudness. So it will sound something like this for the high, ah, and something like this for the low, ah. We would do 15 repetitions each. And then we'll read a list of 10 functional phrases or phrases that the client comes up with that they say every single day. We would read that list in a loud voice, and that takes up the first 30 minutes of the session. The second half are what we call the hierarchy exercises, and this is where we take that loud voice into everyday speaking situations. So as we're in week 1, we're working at just that short phrase or word level, and then we progress in length of utterance and complexity as we get to week 4, where the goal is to use that loud voice in everyday conversation. There's homework all 30 days of the month. And within homework, we assign carryover exercises, which are chances to use that loud voice in real life situations outside of the treatment room. So LSVT BIG is created similarly. So these are also 1-hour sessions. The first half are these daily exercises, which you can see here on the slide are different exercises with limb movements, so arm, leg movements. There's also some functional component tasks. And these are 5 everyday tasks. We have some examples here: sit to stand, maybe pulling keys out of a pocket or using your cell phone. And then there's always walking big every day of treatment. And this distance and time will vary depending on where a client starts at baseline and how they're progressing. And so that will be our first half here, and then we get into the hierarchy exercises. And these also build in complexity across the 4 weeks of treatment, just like you saw for LSVT LOUD. And so these are patient identified as things that they want to improve towards their long-term goals. So it might be getting out of bed, playing golf, or getting in and out of a car. And just like with LSVT LOUD, we have homework and carryover exercises all 30 days of the month. So what does homework look like? And you can see here, homework is going to be similar to the treatment session. It's basically fewer repetitions that the client will do at home on their own. So the daily exercises, reading some hierarchy material, so some structured reading material, and then that carryover assignment to use a loud voice in a real life situation. For LSVT BIG, it's similarly structured. So the daily exercises, you'll just do less repetitions of each. Practice those functional component tasks, some big walking, and then also have that carryover assignment to use big movement in a real life situation outside of the treatment room. So you might be asking, well, how much time is spent on homework? And it's not designed to be overwhelming or too much, so it really should just be about 10 to 15 minutes, one other time per day on your treatment days. On the days that you're not seeing a clinician, then it should be about 10 to 15 minutes twice a day on those non-treatment days. And the therapists really guide clients through treatment on this progress. So we're monitoring progress with frequent calibration assessment. So by calibration, I mean we're helping patients recognize the amount of effort that is needed to get bigger movements or a louder voice. And so we're helping to get patients more comfortable with that. We're checking in to see if that's happening more and more automatically. Part of our exercises are designed to facilitate calibration, so we'll embed those within the treatment sessions. The therapist will also talk about the plan for discharge so that clients are well prepared at the time of discharge. And we'll also review opportunities for continued practice or continued exercise outside of treatment, and then potentially even help connect with support groups or classes such as those Big for Life or Loud for Life classes, peers who have gone through the treatment. So, we can help use our networks that we have to connect you after treatment with people who have been through something similar. The very final therapy session, the therapist will reassess and do all the same tests and measures that were completed at the evaluation session so that we can compare and contrast all those tests and see what type of progress has been made. And I really love this one. We love celebrating those successes and gains. So as you can imagine, if you spend a month with somebody, 16 hours, you really get to know them. And so it's really fun as a therapist to get that chance to celebrate where our patients have come from, how much progress they've made. So we really take the time to celebrate those successes with them. We're reviewing progress on the goals and then really reinforcing that importance of daily homework practice. So we're getting you in the habit. We like to say, you brush your teeth, you do your ahs in LSVT Loud. So it becomes that much a part of your daily routine that you're thinking about and doing it every single day. Now, what can you do to maintain your gains? So we have some tools listed here. The first is just the home exercise program. And this is just, the basic program that we say, no matter what other, fancy groups or things you're doing, it is important to keep doing that same exercise program, the same exercises that you did, and all your other home exercise during the month of treatment. We want you to keep doing that after treatment. So there's something about doing those ahs or those bigger movements that really helps to keep that system, revved up and warmed up. So that is something that we want you to do every single day. There are what we've developed as LSVT homework helper videos for both LSVT Loud and LSVT BIG. And this is where a faculty instructor guides you through the exercises. So this can be a nice video to view at home. If you want to have someone still guiding you through the exercises. For LSVT Loud, we have a software program called the LSVT Coach, which I'll show you a video in just a minute. But a clinician can program this based on how you do in therapy. They set your goals and the program prompts you to say ah. If you say it loud enough, it says great job, do it again. If you're not quite loud enough, it might say good try, but get a little louder next time. So we'll see what that can look like. Jenny's going to talk about a really exciting, freshly launched partnership with Physiotech, where there's a home exercise program. She'll describe this much more eloquently than me, but basically a modernized way to be able to communicate the home exercise program, see the videos, talk with your therapist as needed. Just a really neat tool to deliver that home exercise program with you. So it's a cool tool for both the therapists and clients to utilize. And Jenny will also talk about those LOUD for Life and BIG for Life follow-up programs, and then also those periodic check-ins or tune-up sessions that will occur. So these are the covers of our homework helper videos. For LSVT LOUD, we have one edition, and then for LSVT BIG, there's 2 editions, and the second one are adapted exercises that can be done in seated or supine position. So I'm going to show you just a couple quick clips of each one of those. Let's see if the video comes up here. So first you'll see the LSVT LOUD homework helper. And this is a high and low. And so if you'd like, you can practice along at home.
When you're ready, we'll begin with our first exercise. Watch me, then do what I do. All right, on to our next vocal exercise. As you remember from speech treatment, we're going to take that ah voice and now go low in pitch, like me. Ah.
All right, so that can be a nice kind of motivating tool for some clients. It does the ahs, highs and lows, some functional phrases, and then also some hierarchy reading. So next I'm going to show you, oops, see if I can get the big one to play, a clip from the LSVT BIG homework helper. And this is one of the daily exercises that step forward and reach.
I'm going to have you watch Jenny and do what she does, and she'll model the exercise first, and then we'll practice. Be sure and start with your big posture, and you're going to step forward, open up big, step back big.
All right, and so that video would take you through more of the daily exercises as well, with Jenny leading the client through each of the exercises. So they can be some really helpful tools for clients to keep up with that motivation or just to have that guide at home. And I'll briefly talk about the LSVT Coach here. So that was the software program that was developed with funding from the National Institutes of Health and the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And so it's a really neat program. You can see here on the screen that the client says their loud ah or their phrases or their hierarchy readings into the microphone, and then the microphone registers how loud they are and shows them visually on the screen. You can see there where their volume is, and then gives them that feedback based on how loud they're doing, or maybe how long the duration is. And so it's nice because it's very tailored to the patient, and walks them through all of the exercises. And so this can be programmed either for homework sessions, and actually it can be used for some of the treatment sessions as well. It'd just be something that you'd have to work with your speech therapist on to see if you might be a good fit for doing some of the sessions independently on the LSVT Coach. This was previously called the LSVT Companion. So if you see LSVT Companion in some of the materials, either on the website or this presentation, it's the same thing as the LSVT Coach. Some of the key features: so a client must be under the care of an LSVT LOUD certified clinician who recommends the device. It provides some nice audio and visual feedback based on goals the clinician has set. And that microphone that you saw clipped on, it obtains calibrated sound pressure level or the volume, also frequency or the pitch, and then the duration data for treatment and home practice. And it's nice because clients can easily email those results for the clinician to review. So let's go ahead and take a look at a video here for a short demonstration.
Welcome to a demonstration of the LSVT Companion Home or Client version. This program can be used by individuals with Parkinson's disease or other neural conditions who are receiving LSVT treatment. The program can be used by clients for their homework practice, or it can be used actually to deliver an entire independent treatment session, either within the clinician's clinic or at home by the client. This is the welcome screen for the program, and the client can choose to display data or not. They'll click Start Exercises and then follow the prompts through the program.
Okay, let's get ready. Let's do those loud ahs. I liked that one. Dig deeper, get louder.
As you can see, the program responds to the client's voice in terms of loudness as well as duration and frequency. And the clinician would have set target goals for each individual client, and if those goals are not met, feedback is given to motivate performance.
Okay, so another neat tool that can be used by clients to assist in homework practice during the month of treatment or after treatment as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to Jenny, who's going to talk to you next about that neat Physiotech and LSVT BIG partnership that just launched.
Wonderful. Thank you, Beth. Well, as Beth introduced me in the beginning, my name is Jenny Tacito, and I'm a physical therapist and LSVT BIG certified clinician, a part of this team. And I'm going to take you through the rest of the slideshow now here, where we're going to talk about some of the other postgraduate things that you could be doing upon completion of your therapy. So let me just confirm, Beth, are you still sharing your screen, correct? I don't see it right now.
Oh, yep. Let me make sure. I think after the video, I have to click another button. So it should be up now.
Okay, perfect. I see it now. So thank you. So as far as features that we have for LSVT BIG, we have a brand new feature that actually just launched this week. So for any of you that have been through LSVT with a therapist, this would not have been even an option at that point in time. What Physiotech is Physiotech is a company that has the electronic exercise programs. So basically, your paper copies of exercises that you would have had, this company now has those exercises available in a digital version. So if the therapist that you're working with, or if you are a therapist that's listening that is LSVT BIG certified, if your company uses Physiotech as a homework prescribing feature, this is a brand new partnership that we've just begun. We'll go to the next slide here, and it will kind of highlight what is available through that through that partnership. If you go back one slide, Beth, it looks like, there we go. What we have in that brand new partnership with them is that it provides access to exercises with all of the little snippets of videos, like the big homework helper video that Beth just showed you. So it would allow patients who are doing LSVT BIG to not only look at paper copies of their exercises, but they can actually watch a video and see that portion of it through this through Physiotech. It has all of the 7 core maximal daily exercises in all their various forms. It as well has many of the different functional skills and client reminders on how to apply those to common activities. Next slide. So It basically is a tracking tool that can be used to help people who are doing LSVT BIG be more compliant with following through, because we can message and communicate between the therapist and patient. There's different analytical things that can monitor compliance, activity log, how hard you were working, how many reps you did. So in the day of technology, this is kind of one of our first partnerships with being able to bring some of those technology features of modern day exercise programming to people who are doing LSVT BIG. Then on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about you and how you can reinforce that exercise at home and your follow-up plans. So, you know, if you are someone that has had LSVT BIG or LSVT LOUD, we ask that you continue with your exercises forever. So our goal is really that we lay down the foundation for exercise as a part of your treatment, where your therapist is assigning home practice, you're practicing at home, and then hoping that when you discharge that you understand the importance of keeping up with those exercises. And the goal is that you do them one time a day forever. So we want you to really be focused on making sure that you're staying loud and big, that family and friends notice how well you're doing. We also want to track or create a tracking schedule for following up with you afterwards. So we talk about them as tune-ups, and we like to think of these tune-ups as check-ins. Like, think about going to see your dentist or your doctor once or twice a year. If you go in for that tune-up and you do a little checkup and everything is doing great, we say goodbye, we'll see you in 6 months, and just send you on your way. If you come in for those tune-ups and things have changed, maybe you're not quite as loud as you need to be, your movements have gotten smaller, you've noticed new symptoms that were maybe not a part of your treatment previously, we may recommend a tune-up then of a certain number of visits to help address that. So important that your therapist kind of establishes that tracking schedule with you on before discharge, so that you know what to expect. Do they want to see you back in 6 months? Do they want to see you in 9? Is it 12? There's a lot of factors a clinician would use to help determine that frequency. We also would recommend getting involved with exercise in any way possible, including the idea of Loud for Life or Big for Life classes. I'm going to talk a little bit more about those in a moment. So I will just kind of skip past those right now and just talk about other fitness options too. Is not only do we want you to do those exercises every day, but we want you to get involved in any kind of exercise that you enjoy, that, or maybe don't enjoy, but you could see yourself maybe starting to like. You know, we all have to push ourselves a little bit here and there. But it could be anything from dancing, singing, boxing, doing a book club, biking, yoga, Tai Chi, you know, community-based classes that are available for you in your community. So on the next slide, though, that you'll see, while regular intensive exercise is very important, it does not replace your daily dose of LSVT BIG or LSVT LOUD. So getting involved in another form of exercise doesn't mean that you don't need to keep up with your LSVT BIG or LSVT LOUD exercises. Those are important, both are needed, and fitting those into your day in addition to any other exercise that you would like to take on or begin doing is really important. So making sure that there's that nice combination between getting those home exercise program done and also engaging in other exercise that you enjoy. So why is this all important? Why does it matter what type of exercise you do? Well, not all exercise that you do focuses on amplitude. If you think about it, if you're working, you know, get involved in a Tai Chi program or just simply, you know, going for a leisurely stroll in the evening with a friend, you may not be really entirely focused on amplitude. So making sure that there is exercise that does address that amplitude piece is important, which your LSVT LOUD or LSVT BIG exercises do. Also, most community-based exercises do not practice personalized everyday skills in communication. So in doing LSVT BIG or doing LSVT LOUD, your therapist personalizes portions of that treatment session specifically to you, to common phrases that you need to speak in your life, to common functional movements that have become challenging or are very important that you be able to continue to do. So that skilled practice is important. Also, not all exercises focus on that sensory awareness issue. You know, it's important that you know, as someone living with Parkinson's, that there is an impaired sensory feedback system. So you may think that you're talking loud enough or that you're moving big enough, and in reality, your friends can't hear you, or your friends are noticing you're walking slow, lagging behind, things like that. So recognizing the need to speak louder and move bigger than what you think might be normal is important too. So the LSVT BIG and LSVT LOUD programs really focus on helping you to recognize how much volume is needed, how much amplitude is needed for movement, and then how to incorporate that into your daily exercise and your daily functional activities. So this remains a really important part of your postgraduate routine, is to stay up on those exercises. Then we'll come back around to the idea of loud for life or big for life. So if anyone on the call has not heard of that before, these are basically postgraduate group classes for people that have previously completed LSVT LOUD and LSVT BIG. So these classes are meant to be a way for people to come together and exercise together to kind of, you know, help you stay motivated and challenged by having an instructor in a class and connecting with other people that live with Parkinson's diagnoses or similar diagnoses to that. These are typically cash-based classes, so it's like signing up for any other fitness class. They typically meet once or twice a week for approximately an hour. They are led by therapists that are certified in LSVT LOUD or LSVT BIG, who have also completed their LOUD for Life or BIG for Life training. So if you are a therapist listening, this training, the certification course is its own piece for LSVT LOUD and LSVT BIG. And then once you are certified, you have the option to take that online training for LOUD for Life or BIG for Life. It's just a short course online to help you learn how to lead a group fitness class. Once that's completed, you could start a class of your own. Locations may have just one class they offer, or they might have a variety of classes grouped by ability levels. My organization that I worked in for many years started with one and eventually expanded to two, so we could offer a daytime class and then also have a kind of a higher level evening class for those that were still working full time as our numbers for our classes grew. So you may find one or more class offerings. You can market to the community at large, not just your own organization. So as a healthcare professional, this could be something that you maybe are able to offer within your facility, or find a local church or something you could lease out or rent to do something like this. Or learning and finding, are there other groups in your area that you could refer your patients to if you are not able to offer a class of your own. These can be done in person or virtually. I would say pre-pandemic, they were pretty much done mostly in person, and a lot more rose up to be virtual options after that. So what are these classes all about? Well, in a LOUD for Life class, the goal is to be able to use a louder voice that translates into conversation in daily life. So you will actually go through practicing those exercises that Beth demonstrated a little bit earlier, with doing your ahs, your highs and lows, practicing saying different functional phrases. And then typically these classes will have a theme each week where the instructor would identify what the theme might be. This slide identifies just some random ideas, not necessarily not a complete list, but for example, it could be a book review where you're asked to, in advance, to bring a book or think of a book and reflect on a book you've read, and be able to come to the group and be able to discuss that book with your loud voice with a group. It could be a conversation starter where they, go around the group and say, I'm going to say, if I was stuck on a desert island, I would bring with me water or whatever it might be. And then everyone goes around and just continues adding on. There could be a dinner party guests, conversations that you might have if you're hosting a party. I know we had a really fun class one time where it was like name your favorite tune, and everyone came with a song, either to play a little bit of it or sing a little bit of it, and then share why they liked that song. So lots of creativity each week and kind of making it fun and different and engaging with the group that you're exercising your voice with. Then for the Big for Life classes, those are a similar structure where we go through and practice the LSVT BIG exercises. So we'll go through and practice those 7 exercises. When I lead a class and I have people of different ability levels in it, some may be sitting in the chair doing their exercises, some may be freely standing, some may be standing and holding on a chair. We just make sure that everyone knows what they're doing and how to follow along and practice. And then we do function related practice. So like the Loud for Life classes have a theme each week, so do the Big for Life classes, where it might be that this week is about fine motor skills, for example. So we might focus on things like signing your name, picking up pills out of a pill box, doing things like that. Or it might be things related to like making a meal for family and all the things that you might need to do with that. Going out to the movies, we typically try to relate things to different holidays that happen. When we usually have a Super Bowl party kind of theme. We just try to make it fun. St. Patrick's Day was just recent. Everyone came to class in my class dressed in green. We practiced doing cheers. We practiced, different things. So we build function into those classes in a fun way, maybe not the exact same functional things that you worked on when you did therapy, but definitely applicable things. And we also like to take requests too. So is there requests amongst the group on different themes or functional tasks that they'd like to integrate into class? So these classes, if they are done virtually, would be done very much in that same format, where you're able to do the practicing of the voice exercises, the practicing of the movement exercises in a virtual platform. So if you have a virtual class offering in your area, some groups are currently doing like a hybrid approach where you can either be in person or online. They kind of Zoom people into that in-person group where you can still follow along with that structure. So if you're not able to physically make it to class that day, some groups will have that virtual option. If you are interested in finding a class near you, you can go to our main website and click on that red button that says Find LSVT Clinicians. When you put in your area code and pick whether you're looking for speech or you're looking for PT or OT, speech is for loud, PT and OT is for big, you can find providers that are certified in LSVT loud or LSVT big. In addition to that, if they have taken the Loud for Life training and are a Loud for Life provider, you can see here how Angela's profile says that she's a Loud for Life provider. So there is not a specific way to search just for Loud for Life or Big for Life classes. You basically just look for your area and then look for people that have that designation. If you're not finding what you're looking for there, you can also check with your therapy clinic that you receive treatment at, see if they know of any Loud for Life or Big for Life classes in the area that they might be able to refer you to. And then on the next slide here, if you don't happen to have a class in your area, and this is something that you would really like to get involved with and be a part of, we launched a brand new virtual exercise platform just late in the year, this last year, called LSVT for Life. So this is an entirely virtual exercise platform where we teach virtual live classes. We have recorded on-demand classes. We also have streaming of the homework helper videos for LSVT Loud and LSVT Big, and functional tips and tricks video. This is a membership subscription site, so it does require a membership to join. There is a 30-day free trial. So if it's something you think you might be interested in, you can sign up for that 30-day free trial. It does not require that you put a credit card in or anything like that. It's just a free trial. you set it up and join us with either the virtual live classes or the on-demand classes. If you need any support with figuring any of that out, you can always reach out to us and we can help. But that website is the lsvtforlife.com. We currently are offering those live themed classes for LSVT Big on Mondays and Fridays, and then LSVT Loud, we have one class currently on Fridays. Because this is a brand new site, our goal is to expand upon that and add more classes over time as we gain more members. We have some really fun people in those classes right now. In fact, our Loud class on Fridays is actually a very international crew of people joining from, I think, 4 different countries right now. So it's a wonderful way to interact with people from all over the place. And they're really great classes. And we kind of rotate through teaching those. So the clinical experts and faculty through LSVT Big and LSVT Loud teach those classes. So if you want to learn more information about that, check out the website. And we're just going to play a little video for you here that just gives you an outline of what that site looks like. So you can play that video, Beth.
Hi, and welcome to your preview of the LSVT for Life site. I am currently logged into my account and I'm going to highlight a few of the features that you will have with your LSVT for Life membership. First, you'll be able to book virtual live classes that you can attend on certain dates and certain times, led by faculty and instructors from around the country teaching these Big for Life and Loud for Life classes. Once you have booked a class, you'll be able to go to your schedule, see the classes you've booked, learn what the theme for the class is, and even join your session when it is time. Another wonderful feature is you have access to a wide variety of videos. So if you are a Big for Life class member, you will be able to see recorded on-demand content that is available with that membership. Same with Loud for Life classes, if you are a Loud for Life member. If you are someone that's completed both therapies, you will actually have the option to do an all access pass, which would include both. But here you'll notice there's a variety of class themes, lengths of classes, and options for you to do class anytime you want on your own schedule. There's also a big section on functional tips and a Loud section on functional tips where you'll get some practical tips for using your big movements or your loud voice in day-to-day life, as well as streaming of the homework helper videos that are associated with your membership. So we have the LSVT Big homework helper videos and the LSVT Loud homework helper video that are available for you for streaming at any time as a part of your LSVT for Life membership. I hope you enjoyed this preview of the features that would be available for you with this membership, and we really hope to have you as a member.
Perfect. And just as a reminder, to join, you do need to have completed your Loud or LSVT Loud or LSVT Big therapy, the one-on-one therapy, before you can become a member of the site. So on the next slide then, what does the data say about, maintenance therapy and keeping up with therapy? Well, we know that research has documented that maintaining outcomes in LSVT Loud at 6 months, 12 months, and 24 months post-treatment is possible. But having said that, you really do need to keep up on following through with that home exercise. So on the next slide here, you'll read about clinically, some of the challenges that people with Parkinson's often are faced with is the ability to keep up with it because one, you're no longer going to therapy. You don't have your therapist bugging you and telling you you need to get them done. You might lose motivation over time, more complacency. Well, I think I'm doing okay. I don't think I need this kind of idea. Or as the disease progressions happens, maybe some things are gotten harder and you just kind of stop doing what you needed to be doing. At that point, it may be a good idea to get back in and see your therapist, maybe do a tune-up, and see if those things can be addressed, but really important that you try to fight against those things that might pull you away from exercise and try to keep yourself exercising. So on the next slide, we know that these tune-ups and follow-ups that we'd like to see you on average about every 6 months. Some people may need to come in sooner. Some people may be able to go longer with those tune-up sessions. When you come back in for those tune-up sessions, then, as I mentioned before, you may not need treatment. We might say you're doing great, or we may say, you know what, we need to see you for some sessions. We rarely repeat the entire program over again. It just really depends. If you've not done anything and it's been a year, maybe we will. But if you've kept up with your exercises and you're doing pretty well, it could be that we see you from anywhere from 1 to 6 or 7 visits or something to address the changes that we've noticed and then send you on your way. On the next slide, you'll see just a summary that we hope that you learned from this webinar about how you can, learn about and discuss expectations for treatment and home practice with your clinician up front. Establish a homework routine that you can maintain over time using a variety of resources we have for you. Engage in community exercise. Consider joining Loud for Life or Big for Life classes, and discuss check-ins and tune-up sessions at discharge so that you know what to follow up with and what to expect. So our next webinar that we are going to have coming up will be happening in May, and it will be on the topic of LSVT BIG and LSVT LOUD for stroke recovery. We are actually going to have some guest presenters that will join us who have done research and treatment on use in stroke and a variety of other diagnoses to talk about how LSVT BIG and LSVT LOUD might be applicable to those diagnoses as well. So if you're interested, that one will be middle of May and around the same time again. And you can sign up for those on our blog. So now we're going to divert to just being able to take a few questions. I think a couple of questions might have come in while we were talking, and you can, as Beth had said, you can use that question box to enter your question, or you can click on the hand by your name to raise your hand if you want to be unmuted to talk with us. If we don't have time to get to everything, or you don't have a time to ask your question today, you can always email us at any time and we'll get a response back to you. So with that, Beth, what did we have come in for questions so far?
Yep, so the first one, well, thanks, Jenny. That was a great overview there. The first one was just more a logistical question. So will this webinar be recorded and sent to us? And yes, the webinar is recorded. So we do record all of our live webinars, and then we will post it to the website. So we don't necessarily email it to you, but you'll get a follow-up email after this webinar and it will tell you where to find it. So that's just in blog.lsvtglobal.com, and then there's a webinar section. So you'll see this webinar and then a variety of others. So we have a whole library of webinars there. And so you can access those at any time. And I feel like I had another thought with that, but I can't think of it. But yes, this will, I was going to say it usually is up there at about 48 hours after the webinar, after the live webinar concludes. All right, Jenny, if you want to take this next one. So I noticed that follow-up with any condition once the therapist leaves the home can be limited, even with involved family and friends. Does insurance cover follow-up tune-ups?
Yes, great. And I would imagine we partially answered that question as we went through the remaining slides. So yes on tune-ups, and yes, insurance does cover that. So with a progressive neurological disorder, it's not like you had a one-time surgical procedure, you recovered from it, and it's all over with. With a diagnosis that you're living with, tune-ups are a medically reimbursable reason to go back to therapy. So as we said, anywhere in that 3 to 12 months tops would be the range we would recommend, and your therapist then will recommend any treatment sessions which are billable to your insurance.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jenny. And I didn't see any other questions come through. So I might just go ahead and move to the next slide. This is just information about that survey. So again, if you'd like a certificate, if you're watching this live, you just need to email us. So webinars@lsvtglobal.com, and let us know you'd like a certificate, and we'll email that to you. When you exit out of this webinar as a live participant, a survey will pop up automatically. So if you're able to take that, we do appreciate your responses, and we really read all of that feedback. And this will also be emailed to you 1 hour after the webinar. So if you can't take it right now, you'll have a survey link embedded in that email for you. If you're watching on demand, that survey link, again, can be found underneath the webinar description, either if you're in the webinar section of our website, or if you're viewing it in YouTube, the webinar description below that will also be the survey link. So if you want a certificate for viewing on demand, you will have to complete that survey. And then certificates are typically mailed within 2 weeks of you attending the webinar. And the survey should take 5 minutes or less to complete. And we just want to say a big thank you. Thank you to Jenny. Thanks for everyone in the audience for being with us here today. And we would love any questions. If you think of questions after the webinar, feel free to email us. Check out our website. We would love to keep you involved and keep you up to date on anything that's happening with us at LSVT Global. So thank you all for being here, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.